Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
It's now time for the Pony Cake Sports Podcast with your hosts, Josh Stevens, Tim Thompson, and Tom Schultz. Woo!
We are back for another episode here at the ponycakesports.com, and Josh is still across the country making a lot of weird noises.
I think he's deep-throating his phone.
I've heard chicken noises. I've heard every 30 seconds you just hear.
Buying new pajama pants. I don't know what he's doing right now.
Josh,
Sorry.
how are you, sir?
Doing good, doing good. Last week I was in San Francisco. This week I'm in Oakland, so watching the Raiders.
Very interesting. I'm glad that, we did a 3-minute practice run. I may or may not have pulled the Michael Agent, messed up the recording, but I'm glad I caught it early. I'm glad we didn't put 40 minutes in and totally screw it up. But nevertheless, let's move on here. We are Pony Keg Sports. Follow us on Facebook at Pony Keg Sports. Follow us on Twitter, Josh at Pony Keg Sports, Tom at Pony_Keg_Tom, and you can follow me at Fight Talk Tim. Today we are doing the Would You Rather episode. Kind of go through some of the tough choices that you would see here. Last week we focused on the ADP, guys who we thought were high, guys who we thought were low. Now I want to focus on some of the mid-tier guys who are real close. You may like both guys. You'd be happy if either one was on your team. But which one's going to bring you to greatness? Which one is going to ruin your team with injury or anything else? So before we move on, Josh, you said that you're going across the country. You're in Oakland right now. What's Chucky like? What's the Khalil Mack situation?
Well, still no movement on the Mac situation, but I'll tell you this, a lot of people are talking about Mr. Jordy Nelson looking like he's 28 years old again. And Mr. Marcel Aitman is tearing camp up. So it's going to be a very intriguing time for the Raiders.
Josh loves Marcel Aitman, that is for sure. Josh, glad you're doing well on your road trip. Tom, you're very tired. Work has been just running you, not wild, but running you hard. You're a little bit sleepy. I do want to mention our sponsor, Rogue Energy. They come in the berry blast, the strawberry sensation, whatever you want to call it. You can snort it, you can put it in your butt, but most people just drink it because that is the proper way to take is it a pre-workout? Is it an energy drink? You won't let me try it.
It's a little bit of both.
So it's a little bit of a pre-workout, a little bit of an energy drink, but props to them. That's why you're so wide awake today.
I haven't slept in 72 hours, Tim.
I know.
A couple lines of Rogue Energy. Put a little bit in some water, too, but I prefer just straight on the table line, cutting it up. It hits you faster.
Absolutely, it does, and I know who taught you that. Our friends, big fans of the show. They love me. They love you. Spencer Camp and Jim Jennings, constantly doing lines off of each other's dicks because that's what they do. Let's move on here to the Would You Rather of the part of the episode. And end of the first round comes along. You didn't get one of those early picks that you were looking for. You didn't get one of the big name running backs that you're looking for. But a lot of big time talent at the wide receiver position. DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr. both on the board. You could only have one. Who are you taking?
It's tough. You look at Hopkins, what he was able to do last season with Deshaun Watson. He was the number one wideout in that 6-game span with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, he got hurt. But for me, I'd be taking OBJ. He's been more consistent in his career. When he is healthy, it's him and Antonio Brown, 1A and 1B in my eyes for wide receiver. I think the upside's there for him. And when he's balling, he's the best in the game. And give me OBJ at the end of the first round.
Could not agree more. Happy to hear that you're not pulling the Kardashian curse that you tried to pull last year, which actually kind of worked.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, Joshua, what do you think, Hopkins or OBJ?
I'm a little different on that. You guys are probably dead set. I think it's a little bit more of a coin flip. You saw the production that Hopkins had when he had a healthy Deshaun Watson. So I think that's what a lot of people are forgetting about. Watson should be 100% healthy coming back. You can't really go wrong with either one, but if OBJ is there at that pick, I feel like I have to go OBJ. But I think it's a little bit more of a toss-up.
So you say you're going different. Yes, yet you pick the same person. That is a fantastic thought process, Joshua. We are all taking Odell Beckham Jr. over DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sure that there's a lot of people out in Houston who will disagree. Let's move on to one. This was my favorite. Would you rather? These are two guys that we were both pretty high on going into last year. One did better than we thought he would. One underachieved. Joe Mixon or Christian McCaffrey in 2018. Who are you taking?
A lot of it might be the format. Obviously, PPR leagues, Christian McCaffrey's value.
All of these, we're going to say PPR.
All right. So Christian McCaffrey's value is up there because he's going to catch a lot of footballs. A little worried about that Panthers offensive line this year. They're talking about McCaffrey possibly getting close to 200 rushing attempts. I don't think that is going to happen. I'm all in on Joe Money Mixon this year. Give me him late second round, early third round, and I will be eating that up all day. He was a little bit of a disappointment, like you said, last year. That whole Bengals offense was, though. But I do like the improvements on that offensive line. I don't think it's possible that offense is as bad as it was last year. Historically, one of the worst offenses we've seen in the last 10 years. There has to be some role reversal there. They're going to start clicking. Hopefully A.J. Green could get going a little bit. Hopefully Tyler Eifert could stay healthy. Hopefully John Ross can stay healthy. And I truly believe they're going to give Mixon every opportunity to be the bell cow back and be pushing for over 20 touches a game. And his receiving ability also is kind of underrated. Caught close to 90% of the targets last year thrown to him, which is an extremely high number. Very explosive after the catch. I do like Christian McCaffrey, but I got to go Mixon here.
Josh?
Tom, I understand where you're coming from, especially for the fact that your running back, Jeremy Hill, is no longer there in that backfield as well. So most of those carries will be going to Joe Mixon and a couple sprinkled into the always versatile Giovanni Bernard. But I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey. I know that they added T.J. Anderson in the offseason. But if it gets close to, let's just say, they say 200, but let's limit that to maybe 150 to 180. I still like the opportunities that Christian McCaffrey does have in the receiving game, and for him to be able to break off a big run in the open field. So I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I think right now I would have to lean to towards McCaffrey as well, just because of how proven he is. And Mixon has all the... Mixon could really blow up this year and be what you guys both thought he would be as an NFL player and be the guy in Cincinnati, take a ton of pressure off of Andy Dalton, and essentially make Giovanni Bernard be, the Chris Thompson of the world, but a much smaller role. It'll be interesting to see what his 2018 holds. This one's a little bit... this one's really interesting for me. I'm going to go back to wide receiver, but I'm going to move to teammates. Stephon Diggs or Adam Thielen?
I'm kind of down on both of these guys right now. Both of them are going...
Third round?
Yeah, like middle of the third round-ish, like right next to each other. Got the new quarterback in there, Kirk Cousins. He likes to spread the football around. Kind of seeing a down year compared to last year from both these guys. I don't think Thielen's targets will be as high as they were last year. Could see those dropping 10 to 15%, getting somewhere between 110 and 120 targets. Diggs, his biggest issue has been staying healthy, but when he has been on the field, he has been a top 15 PPR wide receiver on a per-game basis. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs. They just paid the man. I think they have faith that he can be the guy in Minnesota to lead this offense and be their number one. But in all honesty, I will not have either of these guys on any one of my fantasy teams this year.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Adam Thielen. I like Stephon Diggs. I'm a huge fan of his. But at the same time, he has not been able to stay healthy, and I know they just paid him, but they also gave a contract extension to Thielen, I believe, last year as well. So
Yep.
they're really investing in those wide receivers, and they still have a guy that they drafted a couple years ago in Laquan Treadwell. So I'm very interested to see what happens, but give me Thielen.
If you could go one effing episode without bringing up Laquan Treadwell, Josh, I would I would truly appreciate it. I like Thielen as well. I just feel like Thielen's going to be the more reliable guy. I know his Diggs just got paid, but what's that now?
Where do you guys think Thielen's targets will be at? Last year he had 143.
Yeah, I think it'll be closer to like that 90 range. I think it's going to be that many targets less. You know,
I
Cousins.
put it at 108.
Fair enough. Tom, do you have a guesstimate?
I was at 110, like 120.
Fair enough.
So a good amount drop. But if that happens, his stats are going to go down big time because he had 91 receptions, over 1,200 yards last year. You could see a big dip in production. I think they're both just being overdrafted right now.
I want to go to the next Would You Rather. It doesn't make sense in terms of current ADP. Of course, as always, we're using the ADP over at fantasyfootballcalculator.com. I want to talk to you guys about quarterbacks. 2 quarterbacks coming off of injury. One is being drafted right now around 4-4, which is just egregious for a sophomore quarterback coming off of an injury. The other one's being drafted down at 6-8, regardless. Deshaun Watson or Carson Wentz. Who would you rather have as your quarterback, and what is the earliest round you would take them?
I probably won't have either of these on my team either. Taking a quarterback, especially one who's unproven like Watson is, in the 4th rounds, it's kind of crazy to me. I understand his big playability, what he was able to do playing full-time last year, but I really liked what I saw out of Carson Wentz last year, and him going in the 7th round. He was just so efficient last year. Him and Zach Ertz just on the same page. That offense clicking on all cylinders, and that scheme is just quarterback friendly. Look what they were able to do with Nick Foles. Look what he was able to do in the Super Bowl, putting up over 400 yards passing. And Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Nick Foles is. The only issue with Carson Wentz right now is he going to be playing week 1, week 2, something along those lines. But I'd rather have Carson Wentz on my team. I think he's a safer play, and you're investing a lot less into him.
Joshua?
Yeah, looking at the rounds that they're getting drafted in, middle of the 4th and middle of the 6th, I would rather have Carson Wentz middle of the 6th. You do run into the chance of him not being 100% healthy to start the season. So I wouldn't draft a quarterback that early knowing he's not going to play, but, you know, to each their own. But I'd rather have Wentz over Watson, especially at those round ranges.
It's just crazy. We have a consensus here that we would all take Wentz over Watson, yet Watson's being drafted 2 rounds, over 2 rounds, ahead of Wentz. Very interesting. I want to move on to the tight end position. Listen, for what it's worth, Rob Gronkowski is being drafted as the number 1 tight end. Whether that's right or wrong, that's not the argument right now. Number 32, it's pick 3-8, is Travis Kelce. Pick 4-4 is Zach Ertz. I feel like I already know where Josh is going to go with this, but if you were able to pick one, Tom, Kelce's got the new quarterback. You don't really know there, but he's been fired. Who you taking?
I love both of these guys. Both of them are in prime age for the tight end position. Normally the breakout age for tight ends, 27 years old. Ertz is 27, Kelce's 28. I love what Ertz brings to the table with his consistency, scoring double-digit points majority of the season last year, a total red zone threat, very good, very efficient route runner, but I'm going to have to go with Kelce. I think he truly makes that Kansas City offense go. I'm a big believer in Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes will give Travis Kelce the football. I think that offense in general will be better than last year. I think they will put up more points, more yardage, because their defense sucks, and that's a big part of it in the NFL. It's going to lead to positive game scripts, going to lead to more shootouts, and I think Kelce has to be the tight end you pick right there.
Josh, go ahead and tell us why it's Zach Ertz.
What rounds were they again?
They were close.
308 for Kelce and 404
for Ertz.
Actually, honestly, I'll take Kelce.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a big Ertz believer, big Ertz fan. Recently, the last couple of drafts that I've done, I have gone the either wide receiver, running back, or the wide receiver combo to start off, and then I go tight end after that. Or I go running back, tight end, and usually that tight end is Kelce there in the third round. I feel super comfortable and super confident with Kelce. Again, with Zach Ertz, he has suffered a couple injuries last year. He's already suffered a setback during camp so far this year. So for me, I'm going to take the guy that's got the new quarterback, and what's the quarterback's best friend? A tight end. And I'm going to go with Kelce.
It's good for you. Let's stick with the tight end position, and then we'll get away from it. Two guys, 5'5", and then 5'12" are the tentative placements for these two guys. A guy coming off of, a lot of controversy, I guess, in the position. He was great. He was okay. He was just a very volatile play. And then a guy coming off an injury. Would you rather have Jimmy Graham on his new team of the Green Bay Packers or Greg Olsen coming off of injury back to the Carolina Panthers?
Everything on paper is showing that Jimmy Graham should be an absolute stud with the Green Bay Packers this year. He's the best tight end Aaron Rodgers has ever had. But I do not think that I can go with Jimmy Graham right now. I'm gonna have to go with Greg Olsen, Mr. Consistency. When he is healthy, he gets close to 1,000 yards every time. I think that offensive line, Carolina, will struggle. Already a couple key injuries. Lost Andrew Norwell in free agency. So they're going to need to get the football out of Cam Newton's hands very fast, and that leads to a lot of targets and a lot of looks to Mr. Greg Olsen.
Josh?
The Jimmy Graham days when he was on the Saints and tearing it up, I think I don't want to say completely over, but they are over to where he was pretty much like a wide receiver one almost. But being in the Green Bay offense, we have seen some tight ends put up some decent numbers. I'm not talking about a whole year span though, and I'm talking about like a game here, Richard Rodgers 20 points, a game here, Martellus Bennett, 15 points. I think Jimmy Graham is better than those tight ends. And I think he'll be able to put it together a little bit better, a little bit more than those tight ends. So I would take Jimmy Graham. I think his best days are behind him, but I think Green Bay is a favorable match landing spot for him.
It is very interesting. I am not high on Jimmy Graham at all. I do agree with the term Mr. Reliable from Greg Olsen. It's kind of one of those guys, he might not blow up. He might not win you football games, but in terms of the tight end position, what he's going to bring you for the entire year is going to be worth it.
Greg Olsen was also at Brian Urlacher's retirement speech.
He was.
And he looked like he was about ready to retire himself.
Oh, jeez. Pipe down there, Junior. Let's go to the wide receiver, and these are the two most interesting would you rathers, in my opinion. I have two of them, both from the wide receiver position, both between that 4th and 5th round kind of, controversy. What do you do? And big names, all four of these guys, big names. Would you rather Allen Robinson or Brandon Cooks?
Give me Allen Robinson. I think clear cut. He should be the number one guy in Chicago. We've seen what he can do with Blake Bortles in a kind of Stone Age offense back in the day with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like what Matt Nagy is going to be installing in that offense. Hopefully he can be 100% healthy once the season kicks off. I'm just I'm worried about Cooks. I'm worried about all the receivers there. I think all of them will be close. Him, Bobby Woods, and Cooper Kupp. I would personally rather have Cooper Kupp over any of those guys. I think Cooper Kupp's going to be a red zone threat, kind of like he was last year. Also, tons of red zone opportunities will be open with Sammy Watkins leaving that football team, and that's not Brandon Cook's role. He's going to be that deep threat, doesn't do a whole lot of damage inside the red zone. Give me AR-15.
That's interesting you say that. McVay has come out and said that he is, he had fallen in love with Brandon Cooks. They expect him to have a larger role, actually, than Sammy Watkins. We'll see if it actually happens. Who knows what's true and what's not. But, Joshua, what do you think?
I don't care for either one. But what rounds were they? They were close?
Yeah, they're 4-10, 4-11, I think it was.
I guess give me Brandon Cooks, but I still don't feel great about it.
All right, so just give you Brandon Cooks, and then that's it. Just a random, no intellect, no reasoning behind it whatsoever.
That Bears offense just worries me a little bit. I think that they're going to be a lot better than last year. Obviously, they added the rookie Miller. They do have two running backs that are very capable. They added the tight end Trey Burton. They do have some elements to that offense. They do have a new offense overall, but who knows if they can run it? And that is what I would be worried about. So I would take the guy that can finish in top 10 with Mr. Cooks.
Very interesting. I am torn. I love Jared Goff as a quarterback. I despise Mitchell Trubisky, and I love Allen Robinson, and Brandon Cooks I could do without. So I'm truthfully torn right down the middle. If it came down to it, it would be a coin flip. I would probably lean towards Brandon Cooks just because I don't like having my favorite team's players on my team. I feel like that's bad juju.
It's weird.
It is, but I don't. Especially when it's that close. If it was a clear cut, and I had to, then I'd have to. But this close, I would do it that way. But the other one, we're going to pick 5-1 versus pick 5-4. Jarvis Landry or Alshon Jeffrey?
A lot of people are hating on Jarvis Landry right now, and I get it. That Cleveland Browns offense, absolutely terrible last season. They do have an upgrade at the quarterback spot, and Antonio Callaway just got busted for weed. He's probably going to be missing some games. Josh Gordon is away from the team right now because of the whole hard knock situation. I think Jarvis Landry's the true lead dog there. They are paying him like a number one wide receiver. I am all in on him in the 5th round this year, especially in PPR formats. He might not be getting the same amount of volume that he had last year when he was able to finish as a top 8 wide receiver in PPR, but I think I think he's still got a very good shot to be a top 15 guy this year in this scoring format.
Josh?
You know what happened with the Browns, right? So you touched on Antonio Callaway there, Tom, but they went to Corey Coleman first and said, "Hey, Corey, we need you to take the ball for Josh. He's got some issues. We need you to take the ball." And he goes, "No, not going to happen." They go, "All right, we're going to pack your ass and ship you off to Buffalo." And then they said, "Antonio," and he goes, "All right, I'll do it." So that's what ended up happening. But basically, it went from a very deep wide receiver core for the Browns to now pretty thin. I think right now the number 3 wide receiver, if you're including Josh Gordon, would be Jeff Janis.
Right,
so,
my dude.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. But I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry. I mean, honestly, you got to look at it. Who's going to get the target? Jarvis Landry is a target hog, like Tom said. They paid him to be a wide receiver 1, even though they have Josh Gordon there. Obviously, they think they have something in him or with him, so I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry.
So, Josh, I just want to let you know, your pure speculative accounts of what have happened for the Cleveland Browns over the last 2 weeks, probably the best thing you've brought to this show in your entire Pony Keg Sports career. I love it. My favorite. And along with that, what has Jarvis Landry done best throughout his career? Succeed on a shitty team. Tons of mouths to feed in Philadelphia. Don't know if Alshon can continue to do, even if he's the leader that he has been there. Not saying he's going to be bad, but I would still, for fantasy purposes, take Jarvis Landry all day long. Doesn't matter if it's Tyrod. Doesn't matter if Baker comes in. Does not matter. Give me Jarvis Landry.
Yeah.
Let's move.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I don't get the hate on Tyrod, or I don't get why Tyrod's a negative for Jarvis. He's not known for pushing the football down the field. He likes throwing a lot of short, intermediate, dump-off passes. That's what Jarvis Landry does best. He gets open, he plays in the slot a lot, and he can get open. And Tyrod's a pretty accurate thrower. He just doesn't like to push the football down the field a lot.
I don't get the hate for the Browns in general. The Browns are like France. Like, notoriously, like, they're pretty weak. But they've been nice enough to everyone. Like, when I went to Cleveland, great people. Awesome people. I don't get the hate for the Browns in general. They're trying to get their shit together for a change. This year, I honestly just hope they lose the first 4 games just so they can fire Hugh Jackson. Because Hugh Jackson's a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
I hate Hugh Jackson. He should not be an NFL football coach. I hope he never coaches again in the NFL. Because he's that big of trash.
He's not good.
No. Let's move on to... I'm going back to the quarterback position. 2 guys, end of the 5th, early 6th. The GOAT versus the fantasy king this past year to 2 years. Tom Brady or Russell Wilson? I'm torn.
This is tough. Mm-hmm. You see the positives for both of these guys. Look, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's getting up there in age, though. But that offense got Gronk, got Chris Hogan. Edelman's out for 4 games. They've been cutting wide receivers left and right. Hopefully Sonny Michel can be ready for week 1. I think he's really going to help that offense out a lot.
BDD.
Who?
Big Dick Decker.
Oh,
He joined the team.
Yeah. That's true. And Josh McDaniels, he's just an offensive guru. Tom Brady knows this offense inside and out. But I think Russell Wilson has a little more upside. I don't think the Seahawks... Look, this is my view on the Seahawks right now. They're going to be a bad football team. That defense is not good. I kind of like how I brought up with the Kansas City Chiefs, why I'm in on a lot of their guys in fantasy. Their defense is going to be bad, which is going to lead to the positive game flow, the more shootouts. That's kind of how I think Russell Wilson will be. He was able to put up QB1 numbers last year behind that terrible offensive line. It should be a little bit better this year. I am worried about their offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. He's kind of a dickweed. Not a fan of him whatsoever. But I like the upside of Russell Wilson. I think he's being slept on a little bit. He should not be going off after Brady in my eyes.
Tom, the 2 things that I'm glad you just said. Number 1, you just said the Seahawks are a bad football team. I've been drilling that since last year, and I'm glad to hear you get on that sentiment. And I'm also glad to hear you bring back the term dickweed. I haven't heard that since I was in about 6th grade. Joshua Stevens, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. Who are you taking?
For fantasy football purposes, I am taking Russell Wilson. I still think that defense is atrocious. I think they're going to be behind quite a bit. And honestly, they're going to throw the ball to whoever they can possibly throw the ball to. Tom, you told us the other day via text message that the very first pass that was completed was to running back Chris Carson for like a 50-yard reception. They will throw the ball to whoever they can throw the ball to. I will take Russell Wilson over Tom Brady.
I love it. Interesting. I'm sure your wife will not be happy with this conversation. She loves her some Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, but this is for fantasy football purposes, sir.
That's her one-on-one. If she had the first pick out of the draft, she'd pick Tom Brady. She's an idiot.
And that is why girls don't play fantasy football. Let's move on here. I'm going to go with a couple of guys here who are, I don't know if they're flex players. I don't know exactly what they are. But I'm going to go with 2 guys who are the same style of player, if you would. Tariq Cohen or Tevin Coleman.
Ooh. It's tough. I liked what Tariq Cohen was able to do last season on a very bad offense. I think they're going to use him a lot smarter this year. He's definitely that flex player, that scat pack type of guy who could be in line for over 60 receptions, which we know how valuable that is in PPR leagues. But I'm going to go with Tevin Coleman. We've seen him being used more and more the last few seasons. A very efficient runner. And he's got the possibility, if Devonta Freeman goes down, he can be the number one running back on this football team. Tariq Cohen does not have that ability. He is 5'6", 170 pounds. There's absolutely no way he can consistently get 10 to 15 touches a game without breaking in the NFL. Give me Tevin Coleman.
Josh?
Oh, man, this is a very, very difficult choice because I am a huge Tariq Cohen fan.
Of course you are.
But I know that they're talking about using him kind of in, like, the way they used Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. I don't see that. It is not plausible. I'm going to go Tevin Coleman just for the fact that him and Devonta Freeman have finished as a top 10 running back and as a top 20 running back, and the chances of that happening again are very possible. So I will take the top 20 running back over a guy that maybe might finish running back number 25 or running back 30.
So, to play devil's advocate here a little bit, I know I said that I don't like to take players on my own team, which is the Chicago Bears, but I am taking Tariq Cohen only because I feel like the style of offense suits him well. The running back in front of him does not catch the ball well. And on the opposite side, I feel like the Atlanta Falcons are going to play a little bit of a game here. They just paid Devonta Freeman. He's going to get his. And Tevin Coleman, while they're going to have to utilize him, listen, they've proven they're going to do what they have to win, but they might limit him a little bit to try to hold back in terms of future contract talks. Hold him back a little bit, say you're not that important to the team. We can draft a guy like you in the second or third round in next year's draft who can do the same exact thing. You never know the politics of the NFL. So I agree Tevin Coleman has been the guy the last 3 years, but he's also had concussion issues. He's had injury issues. And Tariq Cohen, while he's a tiny, tiny little man, I like what he brings, and he's going to be a very important part of that offense. The last question I have for you guys, I'm going to go back to the wide receiver position because I feel like this year more than ever, in a 2 wide receiver flex league, this year more than ever, you get into the 8th round, 9th round, you're looking at wide receivers who could potentially win you championships. They're that important in PPR leagues. These guys are being drafted within a round of each other. Who would you rather have? Jordy Nelson or Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp all day. Look, Jordy, I know Josh is seeing him firsthand this week, looking like he's 28 again. How long is that going to last? I do not have faith in him staying healthy. I don't think he's going to be the number one there in Oakland. And I think Cooper Kupp has a chance to be the number one for the LA Rams. He was a red zone threat last year, very crisp route runner, needs to work on his hands a little bit. But him and Jared Goff had a nice little connection last year. Give me Cooper Kupp in the battle of the white receiver.
Josh, you are seeing Jordy. He's old, but he might have still had some stuff left. Green Bay might have made a mistake. Cooper Kupp, I've been on that bandwagon for a long time. Even though I traded him away in our Keepers League, I love me some Cooper Kupp. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I will take Cooper Kupp as well. I like Cooper Kupp. He's a guy that I've been targeting late in drafts, and he's actually going a lot later than I thought he would be and should be going. What round is he going again in, Tim?
The 8th.
8th round. I thought
end of the 8th.
Going a little, at least a round higher, maybe even 2. But kind of shocked with that. But I'm going Cooper Kupp.
The only reason I'm going Jordy is if I'm taking a wide receiver in round 8 or 9, my team is pretty well filled out. This is either going to be my backup wide receiver / flex. I feel like Jordy has the higher ceiling. As bad as Derek Carr's season was last year, remember, he was coming off of that big injury last year. The team was in not a balanced team. Not saying they will be with John Gruden there, but I like them bringing in Jordy for a year. I would take the risk there in hopes of having a big season. I know I said that was the last one, but I want one more quarterback. Do you want the big time money, big paid, or the big time hype? Jimmy G or Matthew Stafford? 9-5 and 9-9. Who you taking?
That's pretty tough. Kind of been targeting both these guys a lot in best ball drafts this offseason. Stafford, he's been consistent. You know what you're going to get out of him. Might be a little worried about what they're trying to do with that offense. They've invested heavily in that offensive line, which is normally very good for quarterbacks, good for their efficiency. I think they're gonna try to run the football a lot more. If this team wants to be a playoff team, they're gonna have to be able to run the football, especially in cold December football games against the other NFC North football teams. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. Him and Kyle Shanahan worked wonders last season, but I think the Jimmy Garoppolo hype might be a little too high right now. You look at his stats from last year; they really weren't that great. He was winning football games. He was pretty efficient, but his touchdowns were super low. I don't really like what they did with the offensive side of the football. Really didn't add too much besides Jerick McKinnon. I'm going to take Mr. Old Reliable Matthew Stafford.
Josh?
I'm going with the new blood, even though he's not a new player. But I'm going with the guy that the 49ers may think that he is their savior. So I'm going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo. And you got to remember, they have added weapons, regardless of what Tom said, that they added Jerick McKinnon. But they also added Dante Pettis, wide receiver. They still have a couple good wide receivers from last year, a couple decent tight ends that are going to command the ball. I like what the 49ers are doing, and I like Jimmy Garoppolo this year.
I'm a little bit surprised that hipster Josh has not swapped from his Tampa Bay Buccaneers to being a San Francisco 49ers fan. In all honesty, the San Francisco 49ers scream hipster Josh. They have hipster Josh just throughout their team. Guys that nobody likes, guys that people love and they shouldn't. It is a plethora of hipster Josh players on that team. I am taking Matthew Stafford as well. Never gets he gets the love that he deserves, but he's Mr. Consistent. Like you said, he's putting up, Drew Brees style numbers, not the max, the high end of that, but consistent Drew Brees numbers throughout his career. Fantasy football purposes, I am taking Matthew Stafford. Don't get caught in the Jimmy Garoppolo trap that I am calling 2018. Gentlemen, that is all I have for the Would You Rather. These were all, in my opinion, real issues that you could face going into this draft. You could see these and have to make that tough choice. At least you know now what we would choose. Do you guys have anything else that you think?
That's all I got. I think you did a pretty good job, Tim. I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much, Joshua.
Kind of shocked.
I know. Well, it's sometimes I'm known for messing up, but now that I'm at the helm of this ship, I want to make Joshua proud. So, Josh, anything? Go ahead.
Every once in a while, a squirrel can find a nut.
No, I'll help you out, Joshua. Tim. It's when a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while is the saying that you were trying to get to. So that's fine. You can't even say the sayings right, so I'm going to cut you off right there. We are Pony Keg Sports. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at Pony Keg Sports. Joshua's on Twitter at Pony Keg Sports. Hashtag Tim is my daddy. We have Tom at Pony_Keg_Tom, and you can follow me at Fight Talk Tim. Make sure to check out Rogue Energy. They are what is keeping Tom alive right now. Tom has not slept since Friday into Saturday. He's just been working. He's on cough syrup. He's almost pulling a cough syrup Tim, but because of Rogue Energy, he's not. Dolphins! He's not doing it. He is just out here making the right choices, so check out Rogue Energy. Gentlemen, it has been fun. Josh, make sure to stay on top of the Raiders. I'm interested to see where you're going next. Probably the Rams, but who knows with you. Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Until next time, peace.